Welcome back to Strip by Sia, your podcast on strippers, sex workers, naked people, and more naked people. Today we have a larger company. We have me plus two people, so we got J and R.
Hey guys.
I'm just using their first initials here. We're going to keep it kind of low key, but they are the author and also the host behind the podcast, How to Have Threesomes. So, you guys want to say hello?
Hey guys, nice to meet you.
So this whole episode is going to be a bit like a different kind of take. Obviously, there is sex work to do with this episode, of course, as with any episode. This is more to do with couples camming. So I did an episode a few episodes back on a cam girl, and you guys were super interested in that. So I thought we'd bring another group of guests on to speak about their experience camming, and also, I guess, maybe the dark side of camming, too.
The dark side.
The dark side, because we spoke a lot about, like, the good things that happen, all the money you can make, but what about when things kind of go wrong and people try to find out who the fuck you are and stalk you and shit like that?
Gets a little creepy.
Gets a little weird, right? So, we want to get into this. We're going to let J and R tell their story, so I guess who wants to kind of dive into things?
Well, babe, how do we get into this? Whose idea was this?
All right, well, so originally I met Jay. She was very young. She was, like, pretty young.
I was underage in the States, but I just didn't bother telling him that.
Yeah, we met at a parkour gym. I was doing flips over her and stuff, and we kind of met and connected, and then very quickly in our relationship, I got a contract with Cirque du Soleil, and she came with me.
Yeah, ran off, joined the circus straight out of high school, pretty much.
So when I first went to Cirque du Soleil, I had work every day, and Jay was just at home hanging out. So I think camming became a way for her to earn money while I was working, and we were international and overseas. And we weren't overseas, actually. We were just overland, but it's okay.
Really bad. Okay. So the way that we first got into camming was that we were up in Canada doing a bunch of music festivals, and a bunch of our friends up there were in the kind of poly, open, stripping, kind of more sex worky scene, and they had mentioned how good the money could be. And I had just turned 18, so all of a sudden this was an option that was legal for us, and we decided to try it just for one night. And I was really uncomfortable with the idea of it. I had never even considered doing anything like that before. But we sent in, all the paperwork that you need to sign up. And we did it our first night and made like $600 or $700 in the first night, which was a lot of money for us at the time. And little did we know that, of course, on sites like Chatterbait, in the first week, you get boosted to the top. So that will be your highest earning week. But we just thought it was going to be like that forever. So we ended up sticking with it for a couple of months, solid throughout the summer. And we had threesomes on cam, which made us a lot of money, lo and behold. And then things went really well with that until my boyfriend got his job with Cirque du Soleil. And then we started having a little bit of issues.
Yeah, so my face was like plastered over billboards and stuff, and people started writing to me, being like, "Aren't you that guy from Cirque du Soleil?" And I was like, "Oh, I wish." And then I was like, "Fuck, we gotta delete the accounts."
Yeah, a really creepy thing that happened was I used to spend a lot of time on the cam just kind of talking to the audience and trying to build up this reputation and be really friendly with them, and I would be eating and drinking food because I was on for so many hours at a time. And one guy, I guess, screen grabbed like the carton of orange juice that I was drinking and knew that because it was in French, I must be in Montreal, and he could like see some building out of my window behind me and was like trying to GPS coordinate where I was. And then he wrote to me and was like, "I know who you are. I'm going to find you. Like, I'm going to find your family." And I was like, holy shit. Like, I didn't sign up for this. Like,
that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, like the money was great.
Yeah.
But then it started getting a little creepy because my boyfriend was part of the advertising campaign, and like we were getting a little bit more noticeable, and I didn't want to tell my parents quite yet that this was something we were doing.
And I didn't want to lose my job either.
Yeah. That could have been a problem. So we decided to shut it all down, which turned out not to be so easy because, as you might have seen, there's a DMCA protection over all cam girls, but it turns out that doesn't actually do anything.
What?
Yeah, that's a big misconception. So you pay whatever it is, like $100 to get that DMCA protection, but they can only remove your stolen content if it's on a server based in the United States or Canada, which it never is. right? The companies who make money by stealing your porn and broadcasting it for free are like Chinese and Indian companies. So as soon as it's overseas, they can't do shit.
Holy crap.
So it turned out that most of our videos, private shows and public screenings, were being stolen and had like over 100,000 views on like multiple different sites, and people were trying to find us and like sharing our faces and like cross-referencing, and I was like, oh my goodness, this blew so out of hand.
This is not what you signed up for.
Yeah, I was like, I loved the idea that it was private, and it was like, you know, we blocked our home states and it was going to be fine and we were making money, and then I was like, oh, this is going to be here forever. I think you hear that it's always going to be online, but you don't always realize how true it is until you try and take it back.
And how long were you guys camming before like this occurrence happened?
We went through a couple different stages. So
well, the first time probably about 4 or 5 months, maybe, because we started in Canada and your contract started and we were with Cirque.
We've done a lot of different things with camming. Yeah, so before Cirque du Soleil, it was us as a couple, and then when we got to Cirque du Soleil, I was working, so Jay started doing stuff by herself.
Okay, so you did a bit of both. So couples camming, you also did camming by yourself.
Yeah, solo camming, and I wasn't doing anything very intense. Like, I would just kind of be in lingerie and be cute and, like, I don't know, work on my handstands and my underwear, and people liked it because I, you know, was a circus person, so I was kind of bendy, and I could just do some things that maybe other girls online weren't doing. And then I would build up the hype for a couple of hours before my boyfriend was going to come home. Right. And it would be a countdown clock, right? Like, he's going to be home in 2 hours, he's going to be home in 15 minutes, 5 minutes, guys, it's going to happen. And then as soon as he came and things started happening, it would click over to a private show, and we'd sell a bunch of tickets that way. And that was, like, the big money maker for the night. But the problem was, once our content got stolen and we shut everything down, we missed the money, right? Like, the attention is really nice because you feel so pretty and, like, everyone says you're the perfect girl.
Totally.
Missed the money on the freedom, the ability to like earn money from anywhere in the world. So
that whole mobility thing.
Yeah, so we decided to try and do it again when we were living in New York City, but to try and do it with masks, which turned out to be a terrible idea for more than one reason, aside from the fact that your personality doesn't come across when your face is covered, right? Like, I'm a very happy, bubbly person. That was kind of what I was selling, was this very young, innocent person who brought a lot of joy to people's lives, and all of a sudden I had this mask and was trying to be this character that was darker, and it just wasn't working. And then also when we're trying to have sex with a wig and a mask on, and your wig is like getting pulled off and the mask is falling off, and you're like trying to hold it on and stay in the moment, and it
sounds like a lot of work.
It was a mess. It was a mess. So that only lasted for a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
and then
and we were pretty sad because we actually bought like an automated slider for the camera to like move while we were having sex. It was amazing.
Yeah,
we put in a lot of
our whole set. It was gonna be beautiful, and we had like all these lights in the background and like little costumes, and it wasn't natural anymore. I think that's what people liked about us, is as a real couple they could tell that it was passionate. So as soon as it became like
an orchestrated thing,
it kind of lost its magic, and then we weren't making enough money to make it worth it, and then it kind of just second time burned out. But we tried.
That's okay, because I feel like it's so experimental too, and I feel like a lot of girls on the campsites, they usually are like girl next door kind of look, or you know, more real, more attainable as opposed to
porn
people.
Stars.
Yeah, that
are big boobs and they're perfectly shaped and
totally
like hairless and just make these ridiculous sounds, and you're like, wait, that doesn't look right. You're like, I don't know. I think there's definitely someone for everyone out there in like the porn world, and I happened to fit a really nice niche for a little while. But it's too bad that it ended the way that it did. But we learned a lot.
We did, yeah.
Did you guys have a lot of trouble trying to get those videos off? I'm sure there are still a lot of those videos available online.
We were able to take a couple off. Like, we for sure were able to get some taken down.
I was going to say we didn't, actually. I mean, I knew that there were like 6 or so large sites that had over 50 of our videos, and those I couldn't touch.
How did you guys find out about these sites obtaining your videos?
Some really nice followers of ours were writing to me. I had like a whole separate kind of email and a whole separate phone number that I could like write to these people and do like custom orders of like, you know, foot fetish stuff, but really light foot. Like, I would just be like stepping on fruit, and they'd be like PayPaling me hundreds of dollars, and I was like, I can deal with that. Like, that's fine. But then they started writing to me and sending me screenshots, and they're like, hey, like, just so you know, like, I'm finding your face on like this site and this site, and these like really nasty like revenge porn sites. And,
oh my gosh!
Not like kind places for your footage to end up. And I was like, oh fuck! I remember the first day that my boyfriend came home, and I was like, hey babe, we gotta talk. Like,
oh my gosh!
Yeah.
How did that make you feel when you first found out about that? Like, did you believe it at first? You thought it was maybe a joke?
No, I felt so violated. It like full panic mode within like 5 seconds.
What were like the first things that going through your mind? Was like, fuck.
Yeah, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Like in big capital letters, oh fuck. And they're just being like, what do I do? What do I do? And of course it clicks in my mind like, oh, DMCA, I paid for it. They got this. And I emailed them and they're like, yeah, we actually don't. We can't help you. And they they returned my money and they're like, yeah, our badge is more there just to deter people, but like we can't actually remove things. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like,
oh my gosh.
Oh no. So
did you guys like look into researching how to extract those videos off these sites?
Basically, you can't.
Oh my god.
We kind of settled the idea that if we just didn't feed that account anymore, we didn't create new content, that it would kind of fizzle out and just get lost in the internet.
Yeah.
And it kind of has. We've gone back multiple times, and it hasn't grown since we first made those videos.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it just kind of gets buried under, right, for like the thousands and thousands of videos that are being produced every day by amateurs and professionals. Like, you know, our stuff was good, but I don't think it was exceptional, so I'm hoping people just forget about it and don't remember like the names we were using.
Totally.
So that's kind of all we could do.
What kind of videos were you guys making before?
Oh, well, before camming, actually, that summer.
So I always had this idea to make really beautiful porn that was more tailored towards girls, was a little bit less like derogative and more like
the porn that's currently out there. That's
all of the porn that's currently out there.
Yeah.
I just thought there was a lot of room for porn to grow. Like videos on the internet were getting to like be such a high quality, and like cameras now that everyone has are just so high quality, and I feel like porn was not keeping up with that curve. So I was like, I'm gonna make something beautiful that's like to music or just really, yeah.
How does the porn that's out there vary, or how's the one that you guys make differ from like what's generally out there? How would you define it?
Well, I was trying to make it more artistic, and I wanted to have emotion and connection between the characters, and I wanted it to feel authentic and real, and that's what we set out to do, was not create it just to be for a guy or for...
Was this like more for like on your kind of creative side, or is it something that you...
This was entirely for him. I was always the person who... I was comfortable with my body and I'm fine running around in like little bikinis, and then he'd be like, we should take naked pictures like hanging off this cliff and share them, and I was like, no.
So it's all your fault.
It's all
this is all his fault. Everything is his fault. Yeah, basically, that's a longer story, but essentially that summer was when he was like, hey, like, we should just try, like, one, and I won't show your face, and of course, like, my face was totally in it, and I would totally be recognizable, but we did it with me in, like, this little dress, like, in the forest, and there were all these flowers, and it was really pretty, and I, like, fucked up my back, because he, like, fucked me up against this tree.
Oh, no.
But the video was really beautiful. It was all in, like, slow motion, like, these light rays, and we shot a couple others like that with one of the friends that we were having threesomes with at the time, and it was very innocent, like, it was kind of a girl on girl, but it was more about like the first kiss and like the interaction and that nervousness you feel the first time that you're with someone doing something new, and those were actually pretty beautiful, like as porn goes, for someone like me who doesn't like watching porn, it's kind of scary. Those were actually palatable, and then from there is when we decided to get into camming and see how it goes. But one thing I remember was really disappointing for both of us was the fact that you can't really make it artistic.
No.
Right? In camming, there's not a lot of like lighting and music and kind of storyline. It's just, you know, like when you have to get up and go to the bathroom, you're like, okay guys, hang on one sec, I gotta like go get a snack, I'll be right back. Like, you know, it's a bit more real and raw, but I guess it's just the difference of doing it live or edited.
Well, that's really interesting too, because the trend nowadays too, when you see like Facebook Live and Instagram Live and like all these other like live sites, like I almost want to say that camming was kind of before that time, right?
Yeah, well, what do they say that like the sex industry and porn specifically have been responsible for some of the greatest like technological advancements.
Totally.
Like porn companies were the ones who first funded and invented like live streaming cameras.
Right.
And things like Snapchat, right, was originally meant to be a sexting app. And it didn't get approved, so they had to change the name, but right, it creates a need for products that then end up changing the whole world. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's kind of revolutionized the scene too, because now camming is super popular. Everyone is pretty much doing it, right?
And everyone knows of it. Like, you know, I like how open that is, that it's become possible for people to see real humans having real experiences for the most part.
And I think that's kind of why people are really attracted to camming and to like watching people cam, because it's almost like so relatable, and it's almost
this could be my neighbor.
Well, yeah,
my cute neighbor downstairs.
Totally. So when you guys got started with the whole camming thing, were you thinking about consequences in the future at all? Like, you thought, this is fine, everyone's doing it.
No, I was terrified, and the promise he made to me was, they will never find it. Don't worry. They won't find out. There's no possible way that will be interesting enough for them to find out.
But we originally blocked like our state and the states that we knew we were going to be in, and California and everything.
Which maybe would have been fine if they hadn't been recorded and shared, but I think that was just me being ignorant and hopeful, right? Like, when your parents tell you it's out there forever, it really is. You know, you can't get around it. Someone's going to steal it. Someone screen records it. Like, it's out there.
I think the difference between Jay and I was that I was okay with it getting found out, and she was not.
Yeah, that's never been a problem for him. Like, even on Instagram, he's okay to post, like, very close to explicit, you know, pictures of him, like, cliff diving naked and kind of just running around with his naked body has not been a problem for him. And I think part of that is just him as a person. Like, he's different than me in that way, but also the way society views men and women differently.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's totally double standard for both men and women.
Right, if he's, you know, naked in the ocean, people are like, yeah, he's such a naturalist, like, beautiful. Yeah. And then I do it, and they're like, oh, I'm gonna fuck you so hard. I'm like, I'm not. Like, I'm literally just like, my body is on the sand, and I'm in nature. Like, this isn't a problem. This shouldn't be as provocative as it is.
But women's bodies are always being policed, as opposed to men's bodies.
Are just bodies.
They're just bodies, exactly.
It's just a person who can do what he wants. So I think that made me a little bit nervous, because I have always been afraid of, like, judgment, what other people thought. And he was kind of like, oh, fuck it, like, you know, if they see my dick, like, it's just my dick. And I was like, oh, God. Oh, God. Like, my family's going to shoot me. Like, oh, no. So I was always worried, which is why when I first got that message from one of the followers being like, hey, your stuff is getting out. And I was like, fuck. God damn it. Like, yeah, but...
Did anyone else ever contact you in regards to, like, hey, or, like, threaten you guys in any way?
No, not exactly. I mean, I had quite, like, over 100 of our followers, like, write to us and being like, oh, like, I think I know blah, blah, blah. Like, I think I might know who you are, and I would just kind of not answer and not feed it.
Right.
And one person wrote and was like, oh, I'm going to blackmail you, but I didn't actually think they had enough information, so I never wrote back and nothing happened.
Right.
And I've told a couple of our close friends, like, back in LA and stuff, who know we do it, and, I mean, they didn't share it or care, so, like, it's out there in the world, but no one seems to be actively pursuing it. I think there's enough people doing it now that it might not have the weight of blackmail, like, to be worth it, the effort of trying to go find it again.
That's so crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's that's a really intense story, though, because I feel like once you feel like someone has found out your identity, like, what do you do in that sense? Like,
so I was going to ask, like, for you as a dancer, when most people have a different stage name, is that a concern too? Because you're really face to face with people, and you're in the same city. Like, have you ever, like, run into someone in a grocery store and been like, oh shit?
No, thank God, no. I mean, and it's crazy because I'm super open about, like, what I do too. Like, it's on all my social channels, on my Facebook, my family,
connected with your real name.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Exactly.
So I guess that makes it less.
Yeah, because for me, I don't dance full time, and for me, I'm not committed fully in that way. I'm not so invested.
Okay with it, right? Like,
yeah, and I'm also okay with it.
Stigma around it.
Yeah, I personally don't have a big stigma about it, but I know my family and friends, sometimes they do. They're like, oh, what about, like, when you're job hunting? Are you ever worried about, you know, an employee's going to find this and stuff too? Oh, looks like you have something to say about that.
That was something I was worried about too. Like, if I, you know, had a desk job and then people found out I did porn, I wouldn't be so concerned. But because full-time I'm a content creator for online companies and Instagram, and my face is literally my brand, I was concerned that if the porn came out, that I would never be able to get myself out of that niche or that market, especially just with the way that Google works and trends on, like, keywords. I was worried that whenever companies would search my name, that is what would come up first, instead of all the work that I've spent years and years trying to cultivate as, like, what I want my brand to be. So that was concerning to me, because I knew it could bleed over into, like, every other aspect of my life and my income. So maybe that wasn't smart, but, you know, if your job can be very separate from online work, I'd say give it a shot. You know, just be aware of what the consequences could be.
Yeah, totally. And also some backstory, guys, too. I guess we're kind of going out of order here, but that's okay because I roll with it on my podcast. But basically, Jay and R, they're pretty nomadic. I cannot speak today. Nomadic couple. Guys, I'm, like, so tired.
You've been working hard this week. It's okay.
I'm working really hard. But yeah, you guys are pretty much a nomadic couple. So we are recording right now in Vancouver, but you guys are about to, I guess by the time I've released this, you guys can be all moved up in Bali. Yeah.
We've been traveling full time for about 5 years. Like, we've been living out of a backpacker suitcase for 5 years, and we've lived all over America and Canada. We've lived in Greece. We've lived
van life across America.
We've lived in a van and traveled all over the world.
Thailand, Bali.
Wow.
Europe, Asia, South America. We kind of just keep going.
How did you guys get started with that?
We just left. Oh, actually, no. So
we just left.
I mean, I was 17 when I met my boyfriend, and I didn't tell him, and I actually graduated high school 2 years early. I took an early exit exam, so I literally met him, and we started traveling and kind of moved in together like about a week and a half after we met, which happened to be right when I got my results back, that I didn't need to go back and finish my other 2 years of high school. So we were in Thailand, I think, for my 18th birthday, or Hawaii, I can't remember. We were backpacking somewhere around the world, and then when he got his contract, it just kind of went from there. He spent 2 years working with Cirque, and then I came along as the circus girlfriend, and we had this amazing community of people. And then when you're already living out of a suitcase, it's pretty easy to just keep going.
And even before that, like the very original way that we started traveling was we started a sticker business. We were cutting like custom stickers.
Okay,
decals.
Okay.
Decals.
And we didn't earn very much money, but every week we like saved up whatever we made, and we just took a road trip as far as we could go.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're like, we got 2 tanks of gas. How far can we get? We'd like drive to Arizona or up the Oregon coast or down to Las Vegas and just sleep in the car and rock climb and like just go tromping around in the forest because we could.
Yeah, and we started creating films too. On all of those trips, we made little like travel films, and people started paying us for these travel films.
Wow.
And eventually we were like, well, let's go further. Let's go to Thailand. And we talked to our sponsors, and they kind of helped fund the tickets over there.
Sweet.
Which is why when porn became something on the table, we're like, this could be perfect.
Yeah.
This will pay like 6 times as much, and we can keep it totally anonymous. All right, joke on me.
The irony.
And then it seemed like kind of a perfect stepping stone. So
yeah, so because I was going to ask, because you guys are always on the go, and you guys are pretty much located everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Trying to fund yourself while you're traveling, like how do you do that? And I guess obviously porn and camera would kind of be a natural approach.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, anything that can be done on computers and remotely is kind of key. So I would say for myself, about half of my income comes from Instagram and online content creation, and then the other half is from a rental property that we own together, and we rent out full time. So that's a nice bit of passive income.
Yeah, that helps a lot, for sure.
Yeah, same as what she said. Yeah, I have a couple rental properties, and just do whatever we can to make money. A lot of it comes from film and creating content
selling
for
stock
brands
footage, YouTube, monetizing our accounts. I mean, the real trick
writing
is
books.
people who see our life on Instagram don't believe me, but I live off of $600 a month.
What?
So we both have 600. We both have about $600, and together it's like 1,000 too, and we make it work.
Lodging, like in Bali and Indonesia, my budget per day is $20.
Wow.
So that gets you like a $10 room and 3 meals a day and a scooter rental and like a SIM card for your phone. And then there's just enough left over every month to save up to get you another like $200 plane ticket somewhere else every 30 days.
And the thing is, it works. So, it works in Asia. It works in like Bali.
Yeah. It would not work in
like
Europe.
Vancouver and LA, we do struggle. But the only good thing is that we always have that $600 coming in no matter what. And if we decide to work or we get other film work or anything like that, then it just adds to it. So it makes it, anywhere we go, it is easier than before when we were broke.
Yeah,
totally.
I mean, as an example, the way I met you, right? Like if I come to Vancouver and decide I'm just going to pole dance every day in a studio for fun, I'm still getting paid at the end of that month, right? Like I have been eating cookies from the dollar store on this couch pretty much every day, just hanging out, and I still get paid. So my life works, and I'm floating right now, but it's a very thin line.
Yeah, we're just trying to grow from here. We're just trying to create more products and create more capital and things that will like keep on serving us for a long time into the future.
A little bit more sustainable things that I can do potentially longer term, because we all know no one wants to see me doing camming when I'm like 65.
There's an expiry date on that.
Unfortunately, us girls society kind of gives us a window, and they're like, this is when you're profitable, and then time's out. So I try to work on my blogging and photography and just keep it somewhere where I can scale it up as time goes on.
What other plans do you guys have for the future? I know, do you guys want to mention about your school and the
circus?
Can I talk about that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so, some future plans. I know we talked about this off the record before, but you guys, another reason you guys are moving to Bali is to open up a circus school over there.
Yeah, we have plans. We're looking at land right now. We're going to try and do a rental for like 5 or 20 years of land down by the beach and build this big kind of circus community, because we have so many friends from all over the world now, right? Because we have all these different communities of people who want to come together and do pole and circus and yoga and movement and just have a place to be that's cheap, that everyone can afford to just come and breathe for a minute. Because I feel like the world is moving so fast, and especially for people our age, most of them, I mean, you're loaded, you're a baller, like,
oh gosh,
you got a good life, but most of my friends, are still living at home or can't get out of the house and don't think they have the ability to travel or be free, and we want to give them a place that they can feel that freedom and come be with us and just
do what they love, train.
Relax for a bit.
So you obviously are both trained extensively in circus arts and aerial arts. Do you guys want to speak about that as well?
Yeah, I don't know if I was ever really trained. I just watched YouTube when I was young. And saw like parkour on there, and I mean, I've had amazing people around me, like incredible athletes who have like helped me with my mission and people I've been able to look up to. But it was just looking on YouTube and trying to figure it out.
That's not entirely fair. He was almost a pro hockey player. He started competitively figure skating when he was like 7 years old.
What?
And has all these newspaper clippings of him winning like Australian men's division when he was like 9. So it's not that he was, he wasn't untrained. It was just that he's been trained very specifically in different sports like parkour and tricking and breakdance and ice skating and all these things that led up to being with Cirque du Soleil. It was the right mixture at the right time, but he's definitely had some of the best coaches in the world, and he's a fast learner, and he does things that maybe most people shouldn't do.
Take a lot of risks.
Yeah, but he's still alive, and that's what we're happy about.
When you were in Cirque, can you tell me like a couple things that you specialized in?
So I specialize in parkour. Actually, they brought me in early to help create the act as well as be in it.
Okay.
They never really used a parkour act in Cirque du Soleil, and I know they were kind of worried about it because in video, parkour looks amazing. Like people are jumping off like 5-story buildings and like doing impossible things, but it's really hard to make that sustainable over 10 shows a week.
Right.
So they brought us in and we were trying to like figure it out. We spent like 4 or 5 months just trying to create the act and figure out what worked and what didn't work.
Holy crap.
And actually that was the end of parkour happened because there was too many injuries. I was actually the only person who made it through the entire 2-year contract.
Wow.
All of our people either got fired or quit because it was just too much of a workload, too many injuries.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
That was intense.
And your timeline for Cirque du Soleil, that was 2 years, I think?
2.5.
Yeah.
2.5, wow.
Yeah, it started in Montreal with a 9-month creation, and then we did like Toronto and Ottawa, and kind of went across Canada, and then we went down to Florida, and did like Miami, Tampa, all the way up to New York. We were living in a van that whole time, so we got to drive like cross country through the United States and America.
So
and
fun.
Canada, rather, sorry. And see a lot of really cool stuff. But that was how we saved up enough money to buy our rental property that now gives us income, was by living in a van and kind of keeping it a little bit more low-key while everyone else was blowing all their circus money on like cars.
It's really hard not to blow that money. Yeah, once you get in the circus, you just want to live it up. You have like, everyone's living it up.
Big parties and lots of like prostitutes and fancy cars and drugs, and people are like really living a high life. And then we would just go back to our van and be like, set up a slackline in the park every weekend and just kind of hang out instead of, renting jet skis.
But the other thing is, it's really hard not to rent the jet skis because the thing is, it's such a stressful place to work. Like, you're really giving everything. Like, your body is exhausted. Everything is just, you're mentally just exhausted at the end of every single week. Yeah. So it feels like
you need the release.
It feels like you need the release. Yeah, you want to spend your money to go and make yourself happy and like, really experience the place that you've been. If you can't see it all, like by driving around, you're like, let's just get a helicopter and just fly around and see it or something.
Let's just get a helicopter. No big deal. Can you tell me about the training in Cirque du Soleil?
Yeah, I don't know.
How intense was that?
The training wasn't too bad. The training, I was actually pretty surprised because you don't go to Cirque and they don't tell you what to do. They're not there being like, you have to do bigger tricks, you have to do this, you have to do that. They just kind of let you do what you want to do. There's just a lot of like kind of pressure to do the best that you can do. Right. They might come back and be like, oh, like, the crowds aren't like as happy with the show as we would like, and you just inside yourself that you have to level up and like make the crowds happy. So it's not that they really force you to do anything. It's just
I would disagree with that. I saw him go through a lot of moments where the casting directors or the coaches would say things in a very particular way, right? They wouldn't say, you need to do bigger flips, right? Or we're going to fire you. But it would be like, as he just said, the audience doesn't seem to be impressed. And they'd kind of leave it up to him. And then people who didn't rise to the occasion would be fired the next week. Like, we saw a lot of people get cut where, the coaches would be like, yeah, you're doing great. But, the audience or, like, the vibe needs to be a little higher. And if people weren't willing to take the risks, they would just be gone. So it's kind of, that you need to really give it everything and be risking a lot. Otherwise, it's just not worth their time to keep you on. So that's what I saw him going through a lot
Yeah,
of.
but
That's
I
such
feel
an
like
interesting perspective.
it's pretty intense, but at the same time, it's kind of what you're going to get if you're in the entertainment industry. Like, you're so replaceable. There's a million people who are doing amazing things every day. So it's like,
that would kill to be in your shoes, right?
yeah. So then that's one of the things that they do. Like, if they need to replace someone, they can find a replacement in like a day or two. Like, same level person, they have the same hair, they look the same height. They'll just bring them in out of nowhere.
Another
you
Olympic gymnast just
Exactly.
pops in, like,
There's-
fits the costume.
Oh my god.
There's just so many talented people. So yeah, you have to give it your all. If you don't, then you're just
Totally. Well, that must be like a lot of pressure, though, a lot of stress, no?
done. For sure it was, yeah. But there's a lot of good times too. Like,
Like all the
everything.
threesomes you have.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. We haven't talked about that yet.
Well, so
Yeah, well, big
with-
parties, lots of hot young French girls, and
everything has its goods and its bads, and Cirque du Soleil like has a lot of goods. It's really hard, but has a lot of goods. And like one of them is that like when you work at Cirque du Soleil, it's really easy to get girls. Like, if you go on Tinder and you're like, hey, I work with Cirque du Soleil, and then you invite them backstage, like that's
It's
it.
done.
Yeah,
It's
done.
done.
It's a
Done.
done deal.
oh man, there were really awkward weekends when we'd have multiple girls who wanted to show up at a time, and I'd be like, sorry, we're booked. Like, it
We're
was
full capacity.
yeah, pretty much. Like, there were so many people that I'd be talking to, and we'd be matching with like hundreds of people on Tinder. People always laugh about this, but when we were first having threesomes, I actually didn't think I liked girls. So my logic was that if I could get the hottest girls possible, like, I could handle it, even if it wasn't something I really wanted to do. So, of course, I ended up getting these girls that I thought were the most beautiful in terms of what I wanted to look like, right? So there were these, like, tall, blonde, French, like, ballerina circus models, which it turns out is not my type at all. I tend to like shorter, like, Mexican girls with, like, boobs and butts, which is hilarious. But I didn't know that at the time. And I had this, like, it was like a 15 question page that I would send all of them that they had to answer, and then I would score their answers.
What?
And they had to hit a certain number of points to even be allowed to, like, come and meet with us for the first time, because we had so many people that I like couldn't handle it. So I would hand it off to my boyfriend and be like, here, you know what my basic qualifications are. Like, they have to be like a 12 out of 10, and they have to have slept with less than 3 people, and they have to be willing to get a full clean blood test and show us the results.
Wow.
They can't smoke cigarettes, they can't do hard drugs, they can't be super Catholic. Like, there were a lot, like, they have to like dogs. That was literally one of the things on the list. I was like, if you don't like dogs, I don't trust you. You're not sucking my boyfriend's dick. And then I would score their results, and I think they had to hit, like, I don't know, a minimum of like 16 points for me to write back to them and be like, okay, like, we can meet you once, and then if we like you, like, then it's go time.
That is some screening process.
Yeah.
This is
People
for
actually did
threesomes?
this. This was
And
like no
people
joke. This,
Yeah.
she's not
Yeah.
over exaggerating here. Like,
No.
people
Like,
would do this. Like,
yeah,
they'd
we
bring
had
their
girls.
blood test.
We had girls like 18, 19-year-old girls who were like, you know, foreign exchange students from like Ireland and France who would be taking days off of school to drive themselves to a clinic to get like a full screening and then send me the results and be like, I'm clean. Can I please come?
What?
And I'd be like, like maybe, like I'm tired. Maybe next week we're having a party. Like, then you can come. And every guy at Cirque just hated my boyfriend.
No, yeah.
We would
I don't
show
know.
up to every single party with like 1 or 2 other girls. Oh, it was the funniest thing.
Yeah, it was-
Wait, where do you find these girls, though?
Most of these girls were from Tinder or the circus gym that I was working at. So while he was training with Cirque, I was doing like 80 hours a week training at this big trapeze school
My God.
and a gym for this other circus company. So I was working at nightclubs and big corporate events and like the Ferrari headquarters for their Christmas party. Like, I was learning so much at the time. And it turns out in Montreal, most of the people who do circus are small and really hot girls who speak French, which is very much both of our type. And most of them were fascinated by the fact that, you know, we were from somewhere else and that my boyfriend is like slightly more ethnic looking, right? Like, he's half Mexican, but he grew up in Australia. So, you know, he's like a coconut, I joke all the time, where he looks kind of brown, but he's totally a white guy. But he would show up and was the only guy in the room who, you know, looked different. And all these girls were just in love with him. And they would come up to me and ask, they're like, hey, like, I know, like, we're just friends, but I've always wanted to have a threesome. Like, can I sleep with you guys? And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I'll ask him, I guess. And then we did. So, yeah, I don't know, in the friend group of circus or from Tinder or,
Wow.
yeah.
What
Just
the
random
heck?
people finding us on Instagram and would just like send us videos of them like fingering themselves, and I'd be like,
Oh
"Can
yeah,
I see your
people
face?"
in the crowd too. People would watch the show and just send me videos of
Because
just
they could
fingering
find them
themselves or
through
whatever
like
else.
the cast list. Yeah, and they'd just like send us naked videos, and I was like, I can't see your face. Like, I don't know what to do with this. Like, thanks though. Like, we're eating dinner. Yeah, so Cirque was a crazy time in that way.
Yeah.
Like,
I
just-
had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea. What the fuck?
Yeah. Cirque
Holy shit.
lives it up.
Wow. Oh my god.
That's one of the benefits.
It's an incredible experience, which has also, I guess, did that inspire you guys to start your book and your podcast, How to Have Threesomes?
For sure. Everything that we did kind of happened while I was at Cirque. I think it just gave us a set of circumstances that were above and beyond normal. And we just really lived it up while we had that experience. And
we also learned a lot, like, right? It's a very close-knit family when you're in Cirque and you're all living together, so everyone kind of knows what everyone else is doing. And girls would come to me. I was like the family therapist, for this cast of however many people. There were like 150 of us. And people would just show up to my room and like talk about their marital problems or like problems with their kids, and like their husband had cheated on them, and they always wanted to hear like what I had to say about it, which was hilarious because at the time most of them still didn't realize that I was like 18, 19.
Oh my god.
And they were all in their 30s like trying to get me to counsel them on their marriages. But I ended up hearing that most people have the same problems like over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. And it's just about like not getting your needs met, not being honest and willing to have those hard conversations. And from that, me and my boyfriend were just like, damn, like we could probably help people. Like, there's something that we do and a level of honesty that we have that a lot of people don't, and that's when he decided to write his book and start getting into this project. And
also, when we got into threesomes, it was not something that was just, there was information about online, or we didn't have a lot of friends who were into this, so we felt like we were just taking a leap of faith when we did.
Oh my god. Like did your own thing.
Yeah, and we wanted to give other people a place that they could learn and figure out how to create a monogamous relationship. That's not,
that's what we call ourselves, monogamish, not open.
Monogamish.
Because neither of us go off and sleep with anyone else, and I don't interact with any men because I am not interested in that. I have more than enough testosterone in my life just with him. So we say monogamish, but we wanted to help people skip through a lot of the problems that we had gone through and just get, past all the bullshit, like people who are just unhappy in their relationships and not being honest. So
it all just stems from being honest and communication and
good stuff.
It's healthy relationship building is basically what the podcast is about, despite the name.
Yeah, despite the kinky title, it's a healthy relationship that can involve other people and still keep your sexy time going, because I feel like a lot of people are missing out on that. So that's where that all started.
How did you guys come up with the title? It's so catchy.
Was that just a hilarious title?
Yeah, I feel like we were joking. Like, at first I wanted it to have a very kind of official, like healthy boundaries for like a modern relationship, like something like that, because that's just how I am. Yeah. New millennial boundaries, whatever. And then he, I think, just said it one day. He's like, what if it was just like, how to fuck two girls? And I was like, what do you mean, like threesomes? And I was like, I guess so. Like, people will at least pick that up. Like, when people see the book, sometimes we had a copy lying around like our apartment for a while, and people would come over and just stare at it and be like, is that real? Like, is that actually? I'm like, yup. And now, especially that the cover has a picture on it of like three of us and another girl, like naked on the cover, we're hoping that at least we'll pick it up, and then maybe they'll get like some of the actual useful information out of it. So
that's exciting, though. When is that expected to be released? Can we talk about that?
Yeah, it's going to be released on December 17th.
Dude, it's coming up, and that's probably when this episode's being released. So
ooh, good timing, people.
Around there, guys.
Yeah, so we have the website and the book and the Instagram, so if anyone ever has questions specifically, probably about relationships, I mean, I can tell you how to like bake cookies too, but if you ever want to reach out, I am more than happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, we can definitely plug all that cool, fun stuff at the end of the show. There's still a couple more things I want to kind of get through as well. So I guess on your topic of threesomes, what's kind of like your advice? Threesomes 101.
I mean,
there's more specific question.
There's a whole book on it, but like the basics just start with like being super honest with your partner and talking about your needs.
And knowing why you're going into threesomes, right? If you have a horrible relationship, or you're jealous, or your boyfriend has cheated on you and things are a mess, threesomes will not fix it, right? You have to come from a very healthy, grounded place where there's both a lot of trust and you know why you're doing this in a respectful way for it to work, because I've seen a lot of people who think they can handle it and then they go about it the wrong way and shit hits the fan. Like, this will bring out all of your worst insecurities. This will bring out every bad scenario in your head will pop up in the middle of something going on, especially if you're with your significant other, right? We talk to people all the time who have been the third girl being brought in, or where it's three kind of strangers together, and that's a whole different story because there's no possessiveness or jealousy to work through.
Right.
But I think the main thing is being honest about what your expectations are for it, what your hard boundaries are, because that's different for everyone. Like, a really short example is I used to be fine with my boyfriend having full sex with another girl, like we're all together, and then afterwards if he tried to hold her hand, I would get pissed.
That
like
seems so much more personal.
Yeah, and for everyone it's different, right? Like some people, they're fine with their boyfriend, you know, banging a girl for 3 hours, but he can't kiss her or can't have sex in missionary, whatever it is. Totally. Like there can be different boundaries. So just talk about that ahead of time, and don't be afraid to say when something feels wrong, because if you push that down and it turns into resentment, that will just fester and it creates so many problems. So I mean, number one tip is it's the girl's decision. This is not for the guy to pick, right? The girl should pick the girl. The girl should set the boundaries. The girl should set the time and the place and the rules, because the more control she has in it, the less problems there will potentially be. But really think long and hard, because it's not for everyone. It can be great, but if you want to read all the bad things that have gone down, read the book. We've made all the mistakes, and then
I can't wait for the book to come out.
It does take a long time to figure out what works for you as well, you know, because when we first started, it was a completely different thing that we have now. Like we've really figured out,
refined.
Yeah, we've refined it.
Well, how did it work for you guys though? Like, how did you guys both come to this conclusion that, hey, this is something that works for us?
I mean, it just took a lot of times fucking up, you know.
Literally, but
yeah. There were bad nights. Like there have been times, you know, where it's your worst case scenario, and it usually wasn't the girl's fault. It was just because I was either too embarrassed or like didn't want to cause a problem and say that something didn't feel right, and I would let things get too far and then just like too late. Spend 3 months like having a mental breakdown, like trying to recover, because I was just like replaying all this stupid shit.
Oh no!
Yeah, in messing up, you really figure out what will work in the future and how to avoid those things that didn't work the last time. It's going to be different for everyone, but
yeah, you learn how to never repeat those experiences. And lucky enough for us, like I don't think we've ever had the same mistake happen twice, right? And everyone's different. Every girl you bring in will be a different situation, but we've definitely refined like our boundaries and what works for us and the time limits and how the interaction should go, because we like keeping everyone as friends. Mm-hmm. We used to do a lot more like kind of one night stands, but now they're people that we travel with or have ongoing relationships with, and that actually helps because you care about each other. We haven't used Tinder for a long time.
I'd say that after Cirque du Soleil, we've kind of switched over to like finding friends that we get along with and feel like we could do something more long term and actually hang out with. And
wow.
Yeah, and even if they're girls that we meet on Tinder, it's more with the expectation that like first we have to be friends and we'll like go for an adventure, like we'll like hike to a waterfall or go, you know, do some crazy adventure, and then it can lead to that, but we don't meet up with people now with only the expectation of having sex and then nothing else, because it doesn't mean as much, you know. They have to like us as a couple more than either one of us individually, right? Which is something I've learned a lot, right? Like if they only want to get with him, that's not gonna work. If they only want to get with me, it's not gonna work. They have to really, really respect us as a pair. So that's helped a lot.
And even people that we've met that haven't turned into threesomes, we've like made a lot of really good friends that we hang out with still, and like just go shoot pictures and make videos with them, and it's fucking awesome. Like it's opened up situations where it didn't have to be sexual. Could have just been really good friends.
So like going back to kind of what you said in terms of like, you know, a threesome with a stranger versus threesome with friends. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of speak on any of those experiences?
Oh man,
if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I mean, not so many, but so many different like little things that come to mind. I think one of my least favorite things about meeting up with a person for the first time is that they don't have any backstory, right? Which makes sense. But I used to get so tired of, if we were meeting a girl like every Friday night, for example, that I'd have to tell them the same stories over and over. You know, they go, where is he from? Oh, hockey, this, that, Cirque, this is how we got here, this is what I do, this is my name. Like,
it's exhausting.
The same, right? Because you have to get them to that point where they respect you enough, and you're just saying the same thing over and over again. I used to want to make like a little intro video where like I would just send it to a girl, here's a 10-minute video, listen to it, okay, don't ask me these fucking questions anymore. Like, so at least now when it's a friend and they already know who we are and like have that respect for what we do and who we are as a couple, it's so much easier. It just saves a lot of time.
So awkwardness too.
Yeah.
Right?
But it's also different. I feel like you have to be more careful when it's someone in your friend group. Mm-hmm. Because the blowback repercussions could be a lot worse.
It's like, what level are they in your friend group? Mm-hmm. Are they more acquaintance? Are they an actual friend? Are they a close friend?
And the closer they get to your inner circle, I would
riskier.
Be very cautious, because if feelings get involved or, you know, something gets messy, that can divide friends and get it really complicated. So I would keep it at like, you know, acquaintances or people you see a couple times a year, but not like a neighbor, not someone who lives near you or is in your workplace. It's
really hard to back out of these things if you get to a point where you're just like, no, no, we need to be separate now, that can be a really sticky situation.
Yeah, that's happened
You
a couple
guys
times.
speaking from experience?
Yeah, a couple times, but there have been like one or two girls where we slept with them, on and off for a couple months or a couple of years, and then my feelings would change, or we would just change as a couple and no longer be into that type of thing,
right.
And they would be really upset about it.
They take it super personally.
Yeah, like we'd come back to their city, like in Montreal or something, and they'd be like, "Oh, you're in town, like we're gonna come over and we can like, we're gonna fuck," and I was like, "No, like we'd love to see you for dinner, but like not sex," and they'd be like,
"What?
Furious, like what, you hate me? What's wrong? Like is it because I'm fat? Like what is it?" And I was like, it's not about you. Like, it's literally not. Like, we grow and we change, and my boundaries have changed, and I still love you as a person, but, like, that's not something I'm interested in, and a lot of people are not okay with going back to being just friends, so I'd be really cautious about involving someone who holds a lot of meaning in your life, or is close to you in that way.
Totally. Do you have anything to say on that?
She
You're
said
like,
it all
no.
there.
You're so quiet. Okay, do you guys want to talk about the podcast?
It's
a great podcast.
I know, you need some practice. Go for
You need some
practice. So yeah, after we wrote the book, we decided it'd be a good idea. We decided that a podcast is a natural step as well. Jay is an amazing talker.
He is, right?
So it just felt like a good way to talk about some other things that we didn't include into the book.
Yeah, and frankly, it's a really good way to get to ask those personal questions to people that normally would not be okay.
Oh, that's exactly it. Yeah, we were able to bring other people into the conversation too, because our book is mainly from our perspective. Mm-hmm. And then when we started talking to guests, it really felt like we learned a lot from it too, because everyone has a different situation. Our situation is what works for us. Mm-hmm. But when we talked with other people, there was like some similarities and some differences, and it's just so interesting. You feel like you're part of a community.
And tips for like how to handle jealousy. Like one of the girls that was on our podcast, Ember, is in a polyamorous relationship, and I've known that about her for a little bit of time, but I've never been in a situation before where I can really sit down and be like, how does the sex work? How does your jealousy work? Like what pisses you off? Like how do you deal with that? What are the hard conversations? And hearing her talk so openly and eloquently about it was really eye-opening. Like she said some things that I have keyed into my brain and been like, okay, this is important, little nugget of gold, like remembering this. So it's nice being able to answer kind of more questions, and we're hoping that as the podcast builds, people will send us in their situations or their questions, and we can help them work through it, because we want this to be a community that grows.
For sure.
To create a kind of more healthy narrative around this whole thing, all the things.
Well, that's fun though too, because you guys are pretty new at the podcast as well. I think that's you guys have what?
I mean, we started it when I met you, so like a month ago.
Yeah, that's pretty new. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we like recorded our first episode when we got up here.
So exciting.
Yeah, we're planning on doing an audiobook too, so it felt like a natural kind of like way to figure out how to.
They're all kind of like linked in some way, right?
Exactly.
So yeah. How have your family and friends dealt with camming?
With camming.
Yeah.
Okay.
And with threesomes and your podcast and everything.
So I'll start that by saying thank Lord Jesus for not having my family find out about the camming thing, because I know that they would not be chill with that per se. But the threesome book,
they know about that.
Well, they weren't supposed to. But right before we left for Burning Man, my boyfriend accidentally, the way it works on Amazon, right, he has another book that's like a travel book we wrote about Bali that everyone in my family has subscribed to, him as an author on Amazon. Uh-oh. And then he was posting, there's a mini guide for the book, right? So the How to Have Threesomes book is kind of all the stories and all the failures and the lessons, and then there's a companion guide that's just kind of some tips and tricks, like positions, facts, safety stuff that's meant to go along with the book and kind of draw an interest. And he posted that to Amazon. And I remember asking him, I was like, it's not connected to your name, right? And he's like, nope. And he uploaded it, and something with the Instagram, or not the Instagram, rather, the Amazon algorithm linked it and sent out an email to everyone in my family going,
more books from this author.
Yeah, this author has uploaded a new book. Check it out.
Oh
and I got the email, which is how I knew, as we were leaving for Burning Man.
And you're like, oh no.
And my parents had been acting a little weird that morning. And my parents are divorced, but we'd seen them both, and we were leaving to Burning Man with another girl too, which was hilarious. And I just remember looking at him and going, fuck, you sent it to them with the cover, like How to Have Threesomes with our names on it, to my parents, like with no like pre-discussion. I was like, oh fuck, well now they know.
Okay, to be completely honest, this felt like a relief to me, because I don't like to like hide who I am. I really like to just own it up. Be myself. Be like, this is something that I did. I'm happy to talk about this. I don't need to be perfect in your eyes. I just want to be me.
I like him being perfect in people's eyes. My parents think very highly of him. I've constructed a really good version of him. And not that he's not great, but there were certain things that I always kind of omitted. And my mom always talks about him, just like, oh, he's the perfect guy. We've never met anyone like him. Like, our daughter has the best taste in the whole family. He's like so respectful, understands how important it is to be committed in like a monogamous relationship. They would never do anything. Like,
doesn't say that anymore.
Yeah. Like, she literally said that a week before. We were considering sitting down and talking with her.
Oh my God.
And then my sister had just cheated on her boyfriend, and my mom was pissed. My sister's old, like 10 years older than me. My mom was pissed and was like, you know, she didn't learn these lessons. Like, how could she? Like, the family. But at least you guys know, like, you understand the importance of like only sleeping with each other in a committed, loving relationship. And I was like, yeah. About that. Like, okay, maybe now's not the time to tell you that we like sleep with all of our friends. And then he accidentally sent them the cover, so they know. But we haven't.
We had a conversation.
Yeah, we talked with my mom after, and she was okay. Definitely had some concerns, mostly thinking that I've been like, I don't know, like coerced into this somehow. Also because I don't think she realizes that there are girls that I do like. So multiple times she was like trying to word it as like a trick question, like, so what's in it for you? So are you sure you like it? Are you sure there's something? I'm like, yes, Mom. I don't have to tell you what it is, but yes, you should know by now. So they know it. We haven't talked with my dad. We probably will soon.
Oh my God. No pressure, hey?
Yeah.
He definitely knows. It's just every time we have such good times with him, and we're like,
we just don't want to.
We like don't want to
bring
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's flying out to Bali for my birthday. I will be turning 22
Woo.
in Bali. I'm an adult now.
So exciting.
And maybe then we'll have a conversation. But they're okay with that, so they've handled it pretty well, as well as I could hope.
Right. It's better to have these conversations in paradise, so.
Yeah, on vacation.
Easier.
With a drink in his hand, be like, so Dad, by the way.
Lots of drinks in his hands.
Yeah, many.
That's my dad.
Yeah.
And on my behalf, my mom, it's just me and my mom. I don't have any other family really. But yeah, she helped me edit the book.
What?
Which was
That's so
terrifying.
freaking sweet.
Terrifying.
I mean, it's
for
great
Julia,
that she's
I don't
super
know.
supportive like that and, you know, non-judgmental.
Actually, a really bad story. My mom actually walked in on us one time having a threesome.
Oh, that's
No.
true. That's true.
So she already knew before the book came out. She knew this was something that happened. But then she was reading some of the stories. She's like, "Oh, wait,
and that
what?
was
What? What's
totally
going on?"
your fault. By the fucking way, this was like our first, like one of the first weeks we were having threesomes. So I was like just turned 18, and we were up in Canada, and we were like kind of sleeping with. We were sleeping with this friend of ours very outright. And I remember he had told me, he's like, oh, you know, my mom is out. She's like in town, and I was like, but she doesn't have a key, right? And he was like, no, she doesn't have a key.
Oh no.
And what we used to do, just because we like doing, we'd always pull the bed out of the bedroom into the middle of the living room, so it was by like the TV and the fireplace, so you can like watch movies and smoke weed and have a bunch of sex. And literally at like, I don't know, midnight, me and the other girl are going like involved.
I was eating lasagna
Yeah,
sitting on the side of the bed, and I just see the door like crack open, and it's just a silhouette.
His
and, like,
mom's just standing there, just staring at
Jay and the
us.
other girl didn't realize what was happening. It took her a while for like the lighting to adjust or whatever.
Oh my God. I am dying.
I was
horrified.
Fucking dying.
I'm
oh my
horrified.
God. Especially because like me and his mom don't have a really close relationship. Like we're just on a different wavelength, and she wasn't really sure of me at the time because we hadn't been together that long. And then she walked in, and you know, there's this other naked girl with blue hair like in our bed, and I was probably doing something atrocious. And she just kind of stood there. And my boyfriend was also really high at the time, just like on weed, but he had never smoked before in his life. Like this
my
was.
mom didn't know that I did drugs of any sort.
All
so
of
I was
the
like,
things
oh,
happening.
Damn it. It's
Drugs
all
is
gonna
a
come
strong
out one
word.
night.
We don't drink coffee or alcohol or touch anything that's not like plants. Like we basically.
To my mom, though, it's a drug. So.
Yeah, we basically only eat like organic vegan weed edibles sometimes in the summer. But she had never seen him stoned before, and he was right naked and trying to get her out of the house, and she like
went
wasn't
in and used the
leaving.
bathroom, and I like had to walk in there. My eyes were like super red, so I was looking at the ground. It was actually okay. I was just like laughing with her. I was like,
He thought it was funny. Me and the other girl were like
hiding behind
terrified.
like a wall. She's like, oh, should I
yeah,
go?
she was
What's
like trying to
happening?
grab her stuff and leave. I was like, you don't have to leave. She's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. Like, this is not cool. I was like, oh
And
my
then
God.
eventually, I think my mom filled up like a hot water bottle, and then she left.
Yeah, got some snacks and left. She was like, have
See
fun,
ya.
kids. I was like, fuck.
Oh my God, I'm dying with that story.
So that happened once. So she helped
And
edit
then
the
after
book.
that, we actually pulled out the camera and just
Yeah.
as soon as she left.
He thought it would be. He said it as a joke. He's like, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if like we actually made a porn now?" And we kind of looked at each other, we're like, and then we did. So she knew. But having her edit the book, like while we were with her, we visited her in Greece, and having her read some of the chapters about things that he's done that she didn't know, like bad things that he's done,
Even, like stealing and stuff when I was little. Like there was some stuff in there that she just didn't really realize.
Stealing
Yeah.
art supplies or cheating on ex-girlfriends or having his first girlfriends cheat on him. And then it got to the scenes with us where like he had done some really bad things earlier in our relationship, and she was just looking at him and being like, oh my God, like who are you? Like so disappointed in him. And I was like, oh God, why have I came here. So she knew, and now my
She
parents
just thinks
know.
I'm wild and crazy. She was kind of wild and crazy too, so I feel like she understands.
Runs in the
it all.
family, right?
Yeah.
No judgment there.
Right.
I think she's just, to be completely honest, I feel like she's happier to know me for real than to
Yeah.
hear like a fake version of me.
Totally.
And I feel like a lot of times parents are happier to just know the truth.
It depends
Even
on the
if-
parents.
Totally depends on the parents.
Yeah,
Oh, God.
very conservative parents would not rather hear certain things. But
Yeah,
luckily,
that's
neither of
fair
our
enough.
parents are, so they still love us. We're not disowned as of yet.
I guess with that, we could go into some Q&A.
Sure.
We got a couple questions here. I guess this is more for you, R. At what age did you begin training circus, and when did you know you wanted to do Cirque?
Man, okay, so circus in general, actually the first time I ever saw a circus was in New Zealand.
Oh,
And I was 8 years old and they had this like little pop-up circus. And there was a kid who did like a handstand on his dad's hands. And I saw it and I was just amazed. I was like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. And the kid came to our school for like a week and he didn't speak any English. And I tried to be his friend. And I remember he took me and like threw me into a puddle and just rode me like a cowboy. And I was like, what the fuck? But at the same time, it like, I was like, man, I want to be that cool. I want to be the kid who's able to throw people in puddles and like ride them and like do handstands with his dad's hands and like be that interesting. I don't know. So like my fire was ignited when I was like 8 years old. And I always wanted to do that, but my life went in a bunch of different ways when it got into ice hockey and figure skating and a whole bunch of other things. And then I was doing all those other things and I had a lot of concussions in ice hockey and I saw parkour on YouTube and I was like, "Ah, that's just so cool. It feels impossible. It feels like what they're doing shouldn't be real."
Right.
And
Looks cool.
And then you became one of them.
yeah, and then I just started doing it, and I thought I was too late. I started parkour when I was like 15, and that's way too late to become professional at anything, I felt like. But
Yeah.
I just got really lucky and trained really hard, trained like 5 hours a day
Oh
for
my
like
gosh.
the next like 10 years, and
Yeah. His mom would drive him like after school. He would do his homework in the car, drive him 2 hours to the parkour gym, and then he'd sleep on the way back every single day.
Wow.
Like she doesn't let him go soft at anything. If he said he wanted to do something, he has to be like professional at it,
Right.
which got him where he is today. But
Totally.
it definitely makes him
there's
he
no such thing
struggles
as
with
being
relaxing.
sick or injured. You just got to keep going.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
he's really bad at having rest days. Like whenever he's sick, I'm like, you just need to sleep. He's like, I can't. There's like 15 things I need to do and write a book and like save the world. I'm like, you just calm down. No, everyone can't do everything all the time. So she raised a champion, but now I'm teaching him how to relax sometimes, take care of
it's
himself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, going to Bali will be a lot easier.
Yeah.
We're still
Yeah.
going to keep it busy no matter what.
Oh, yeah, for
We're
sure.
building our circus house, but
Absolutely.
at least it's warmer than Vancouver.
Yes,
It's getting too cold for me here.
yes.
The
It
thing
is
is,
cold.
at the end of those, like, when you put in, I have this belief that, like, you put in 10,000 hours to become excellent at anything. As
I read a
in-
book on that.
Yeah,
too.
Malcolm Gladwell's
Yes.
book, Outliers, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a tattoo.
Oh,
on
do
my-
you?
on my head, yeah. But,
Such a good book.
but even if you put in those 10,000 hours, it doesn't necessarily, like, guarantee you success. Like, you know, a lot of it has to do with luck as well. And I was just in the right place at the right time because parkour was just such a new sport and it was exciting and new and fresh to Cirque du Soleil. And
Totally.
I think they saw me traveling and doing cool stuff and they were like, we need this essence of freedom in our show. And so they
Wow.
contacted me.
That's so cool. Like they contacted you. Like
Yeah.
that's so freaking
And
nuts.
it did feel like the accumulation of a dream that I'd had since I was like 8 years old though.
Right.
So
That's an incredible story.
Hey, one more thing as well
Mm-hmm.
is that after you accomplish those big dreams, this is something I learned when I was at Cirque du Soleil. It's not always what you anticipate it to be. Because when I was younger, I thought when I finally made it to Cirque du Soleil, I'd feel like satisfied in myself and fulfilled forever on. Like it was going to be my happily ever after. And that's not really the case. Like you get there and you find problems with it and you find things that don't work and things that do work. And
How do you? I guess it's kind of similar. How do you go from wanting to do Cirque to doing Cirque?
I have some advice. This is something that changed my life because when I was in LA, I spent many years trying to do the thing that everyone else did, the grinding, trying to like go into auditions and get movie roles. And you're competing against like hundreds, if not thousands of other amazing, talented people. And it felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. And it really felt like something changed when I started doing what I wanted to do, when I followed my passion. So when we bought our plane tickets to Hawaii and to Thailand and we just started doing
Cliff jumping.
and parkour
being
out
more
in the
unique.
world and yeah, just doing what I felt was right. And I wasn't like I was doing way bigger moves back when I was training at the gym, but I was doing it for me and for like it was just something that I wanted to do when I was doing it out in the world. And that's when Cirque du Soleil paid attention to me. That's when I started getting opportunities. It was not when I was doing what
Right.
everyone else was doing, but when I just did what I wanted
Did
to
your
do.
own thing. Okay.
So besides just doing what you love to do, yeah, with Cirque du Soleil they have an audition process, and they like I went to a private audition. You have to like send in videos and whatever else. And to be completely honest, it was the best audition of my life. Like
Wow.
I just went in there. I'd been performing all summer, and I was just super confident. And went in there and threw my biggest tricks, threw like a round off double backflip, and landed it like perfect. And I auditioned for 2 different things. So I auditioned for tricking and for parkour, and I think that like showed them I had a bit of diversity.
Totally.
So after you get into the database with Cirque du Soleil, they can call you at any point. Like one of the people in my shows, or one of the people in my show had gone through the audition 11 years prior, and they had called her once, and then she was on her honeymoon in Hawaii, and then Cirque du Soleil called and was like, hey, can you be out here in Montreal in a week? She's like, okay. So after you do the audition process, it's just up in the air as to whether you're going to get hired and when you're going to get hired. And
I mean, for you passed your audition in Vegas 4 years.
No, it was 2 years.
Oh, was it 2 years? Oh, so you passed your audition, and then 2 years later is when they called you to be in the Cirque show in Montreal. So you never really know, and some people are in it for their entire lives and never get called back. Some people get called, within the weekend, and it depends on what you do. Like for dancers and acrobats, there's a way higher turnover and a lot more than for specialty skills, right? Like certain singers or clowns or kind of specialty acts that are more unique, like hair hanging. Those people can't be replaced as easily, but getting in the database definitely doesn't mean that you're cast in the show. It just means that the directors can now see you and they can search you up for roles.
And that's exactly it. Yeah, once you have their attention, once you get those people to follow you on Instagram, follow you on Facebook or whatever, when you start posting videos, you're going to stay relevant in their eyes, and they're going to see what you're doing, and they're going to find a show for you to fit into.
So this person, a lot of these questions came from the same person. I guess she really wants to be in Cirque. Can you be a Cirque aerialist if you start at 28?
Ho-ho! Hi there, fellow aerialists in the room. I am sorry to tell you, but the answer is pretty much no. I started learning circus when he got his contract, so I was like 18, 19, and I was lucky enough to get trained by some of the best people in the world doing 80 hours a week. But the problem is, for most Cirque aerialists, you need to be a full contortionist too, at least in your lower back range. And for most people, unless you have the genetic condition, you need to have started training that around the age of like 5 to 10.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And if you're not one of those people who started training at 5 or 10 years old, you'll end up like me, where I now have permanent scar tissue in my lower back, and I have problems from trying to force myself into these shapes to get the moves that were required. So I'm not saying don't try, like if it's your fucking dream, go for it, but just be aware that like aerials especially are so hard on your body. They're one of those sports that you really only have like 8 or 10 years in, and if you're already 28, getting up to 30, by the time that you're in Cirque, if you're getting injured and your body can't heal fast enough, that's going to be really, really hard. So
I want to put a couple caveats there. One is that in my show, the average age of artists was 27 years old.
Oh, okay.
So a lot of people think that it's when you're 18 or 21. That's not true. Like,
but they'd all been in the Olympics, so they'd already all been training since they were 5, been through the Olympics, and then were in Cirque. So it's not like they started at 25 and were in Cirque by 27. This was kind of a lifetime culmination of their training, like you.
There's another caveat as well, is that Cirque du Soleil is not the only place that you can do circus. There's a lot of other circuses, like Once by Dragon or Seven Fingers, and there's even nightclub performances. There's a lot of things that you can do with circus. You don't necessarily have to be in Cirque du Soleil to have a really successful circus career.
Yeah, if you want to be a performing aerialist, I'd say the best work is actually for like corporate events and nightclubs, because you can make your own schedule. And I have friends who are in their 30s, like early 40s. If you can keep up your fitness and can still like, dangle around in a shiny little costume and kind of be eye candy, that is work you can do. But Cirque specifically is so hard on people's bodies, and they do have age cutoffs for aerialists just for what your body needs to go through and the time and commitment it takes to like keep your ligaments soft and not get injured. Because if you have a back injury and you're out of the show, like that doesn't suit them really well. So I'd say keep it up. Maybe focus on some other companies that you could work for, and make sure that you warm up. Take care of your back. Don't mess around with it, because if it hurts, it's probably serious.
The other thing is creativity is key too. If you go out there and you're doing the same thing that everyone else is doing, then they're not going to notice you. But if you go out there and you create something unique and like you have a really interesting act, then you never know what could happen.
Totally. Good advice all around, though. We have a non-circus question here. I guess it goes back to the whole camming thing. So how do you get your stolen content / shows taken down from the interwebs?
Yeah, I think I addressed it a little bit earlier, but basically you can't.
Yeah.
Basically, you're fucked
sad.
if it is stolen to a site like, for example, Pornhub, which is unusual. But if it's an American-based company with their servers on American land, then you can pay to get it removed. And honestly, porn companies don't want to get in a fight with you. If you just email them and say, this is my video, I don't give you permission, they'll just remove it. They don't care, right? They have enough free content coming in. But what you'll notice is on a lot of websites that are hosted outside of America, there's a button at the bottom of the screen, right, that says report stolen content. And the button doesn't go anywhere.
What?
If you try and click on it,
So
it'll
misleading.
it either doesn't open anything, or it'll open an email form that you can send emails to, but there's no one receiving it. So I spent weeks just sending them threats, sending them lawyer things, like and nothing, right? No one's actually reading it, and they don't care.
If you want to make sure that your stuff doesn't get out there to the world. You
Don't
can
record it.
you can do things preemptively though. You can put like watermarks on your videos. I have to say, the stuff that we created later with masks, none of that got put up on those sites because we did a lot of
I
things.
don't think it was very good.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't good, but we also took all the precautions that we could have taken. We put watermarks in there. I don't know, that's probably all we did.
I don't know. What I've heard from other cam girls when I started getting into this process of trying to have things removed, they're like, you can't stop it, but what you can do is at least advertise well. So I know a lot of girls will like write their username on a piece of paper and have it in the background of all the shots. So your videos are going to get fucking stolen, but at least people will know who you are and know how to come back and find you and hopefully help you monetize your own brand.
Yeah.
So I would just say be cautious and
And going through
just
that
know it's
process,
out there.
one of the things that we learned is that like this has happened to everyone. It's not just like it wasn't
Not
just
just
us. But the general consensus online was to just own it and be like, this is me, you know?
Right. That can be hard for some people to do.
It's extremely
like
hard.
me.
For me, I'm just like, it's out there.
You're like, well, it's there, shit.
Well, I guess that's the last question for today. So thank you so much, R and Jay, for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. But where can we find you before we go? If you wanted to promote anything like your podcast, your book.
Yeah.
I think that might be it for you
So
guys.
our Instagram is at How to Have Threesomes, and you can also
for the website.
Same for the website. We have our podcast is How to Have Threesomes. It's on Apple, and then How to Have Threesomes is on Amazon as a book, an ebook.
The full
print book.
release is coming out soon, or I guess by the time you guys are hearing this, it's probably already out there. So if you want to hear some crazy fucking circus stories and learn how not to have threesomes, you can read that book and then
Not to have three.
yeah, and then learn all the lessons that we've learned from that.
That's awesome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks, guys, for listening. Another new episode dropping again next Sunday. Stripped by Sia on Instagram or my personal Instagram, Sia Stuff. And we'll catch you guys again next week. Peace out. Bye. Bye.
You're listening to Stripped by Sia, produced and hosted by Steph Sia, aka